And then I asked them, I said, how many positions on the football field? They go, 11. I said, no, there's 22, and I guarantee you I'll have one. And you know, that's the attitude you had to have.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because I played defensive end,
4-3. I didn't know
defensive
4-3. I
tackle.
knew you were fast. But
I'm
wow.
going to tell you this.
Well, that was Steve Oramus. He was training us.
Yes.
And I had the
yes.
fastest kid in Colorado high school. He challenged me to a race. And I said, man, he wanted my Adidas uniform. I was endorsing Adidas. And I said, I'll give it to you if you beat me. And he was so excited. He was laughing like you.
I love it.
He didn't even think it would be a contest. And,
Yeah.
you know, I will say this. I was on a tartan track, and I
Yeah.
had on track shoes. He had on track shoes, and all he saw was my back.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, you know.
So this is funny. Now, this is
But-
when
well,
you
I'm gonna
story.
say
No, I'm not
something
gonna let you talk.
But you
about
could call
it,
Steve
'cause I'll
Oramus.
forget.
Steve Oramus was the guy timing, our buddy that
Yeah, oh
trained,
my God.
that we
So-
trained with, yeah.
This when I was in college, right? I played some tennis. I dated a gal who was a tennis gal, the number 2 on the team there. So I'd go over there, and those guys were like, the tennis guys were fast guys, right? And
You found a fat girl
they
on the
they
tennis
were
team?
they were literally say, see, you're pretty quick, but I know I can outrun you. And I was like, okay, $60. You willing to bet me $60, right? They'd be like, absolutely. I made so many $60 bets it wasn't even funny, right? Because I could run.
Yeah.
Because I was 6'6" like you, right?
Yeah.
Big, tall. I'm not as fast as you, obviously, but I could run. And they didn't. And they're like, no way. And I can't tell you how many times I won $60. It was always $60 bet. But yeah, I mean that's so that I'm the faster, stronger. They suppressed our 40 times because remember there was Blesto and there was United and there was all those combines were all separate combines and they all were like kept all their information private.
They brought scouts to your campus in time.
Exactly. The scouts came to the campuses, and then you went to the combines. There were 3 different ones: Seattle, Detroit, Indianapolis, and one in Tampa. Now they say that, and then if the teams liked you, they'd bring you to their private deal, right? So you probably experienced some of that.
No, never had any combines. You know, the interesting thing was,
So that came after.
The combines were after me.
Yeah.
Even after you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that was my era.
They
then.
came to a campus and checked you out and had you run for them on campus.
Okay. Well, we even had an extended pro day because Jim Kelly had blown his shoulder out our senior year, right? And he was just getting back, and he was now ready to, do his thing. So we had an entire pro day at the University of Miami, which helped me run one more time.
Sure.
For the pros, right? While they were out there, watching Kelly go through the drills.
So if you look at, I'm going to suggest that people watching this podcast or listening to this podcast go to both your highlight films. Just look up Mark Cooper highlights and Mark Mullaney highlights, and you'll watch Mark. Every single NFL player that I know that has seen Mark's highlight. I haven't done this with you, and I know a few of them or coaches.
By the way, offensive linemen don't have highlight films.
I didn't even know I had one on there. No.
Well, you know what? I've got a YouTube channel. They can go to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I've been
and there's
to your YouTube channel.
and on there, so what happened? A guy was cutting all these clips, right? And he was sending them to me. David Soto, I think his name was, on Facebook. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to see all these these plays and this and that and the other. And I'm like, wow, where that's coming from? And the guy was literally going into the old footage and he's clipping plays on all different guys across the Broncos time frame. And so I was, I started putting them up on YouTube just to have them so I could show my kids.
So the people that are listening to this can go look at your highlight films. Go look at Mark Mullaney highlights. It'll come up in a Google search, and you get a chance to see him play. Now, what we've done is we spent a lot of time talking about what was, okay, and we haven't spent any time on what is today. You guys are ex-NFL players. Mark's a part of something called Legends of the Game. I think you are as well. And the things that I'm seeing that bother me a little bit are, the way things are going now. I just watched the Rams and the Chargers on Hard Knocks last night. Okay, and they're seeing these guys saying we have to do something, today. We need to cancel practice. We need to do something today to show, we're going to stop playing football. We're not going to have the games or whatever. We're going to kneel during the national anthem. And I know that somebody will say that I'm saying this because I'm a racist, but it's absolutely incorrect. In fact, I believe that stuff is racist. Honest to God, I do. And I want to see how you guys feel about this. Because none of it has worked out well from a collective perspective. They wanted everybody to join in and think that they're doing wonderful things. But it has not worked out well for the NFL. Every time they walk away from their jobs, it makes people mad. And they alienate themselves from a very large population of people. Not because they're racist, but because they're like, do your frickin' job. And now you hear all these other things. It's not about doing your job. It's about doing, all this stuff. You're looking at these guys that are getting paid $20 million a year, $15 million a year. I coached a kid in high school that's made over $160 million a year, and his family was poor. It's awesome. It's an awesome story. But, the best way to do these things in a platform to me is, don't you guys think that when you guys played, you were kind of the poster children for race relations back in the 70s and 80s? I mean, didn't you guys?
Mark, I'm sure, I don't know how Mark's locker room was, but I was in two. And you don't see color in the locker room. You're there for a purpose. You're there to win football games. You're there for there not to be distractions from the outside in and the inside out. And you're there to do your job. And you're there I literally played in fear of my job. I was always in the off season. I was working my ass off because I always thought somebody might be working harder than me that will take my job. And the regret I'll have is that I missed those couple of days of workouts. And if I missed a workout, I'd often try to make it up somewhere, even if it was in the evening or the next week or I played in fear of losing my job. So I think it's a whole different perspective or mind perspective, especially with the amount of money that's being thrown around today. But I played in fear of my job.
Well,
of losing the
Mark
opportunity.
Played very close to college when he was in high school when Martin Luther King was killed, and I was in middle school when Martin Luther King was killed. I just don't remember us not getting along on our football teams.
No.
I don't remember any social injustice for those players and the way we worked together. They were my best friends. I know Mark had a particular interesting conversation with me when we were up in Breckenridge this weekend, and he mentioned that he had a dyslexia problem. He had trouble reading when he was in school, and he didn't know what the Civil War was because he couldn't study. Right, Mark? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was basically illiterate. I had it pretty good, but I wasn't the brightest bulb in the room ever. But my brother Ed could testify for me. I was halfway through my football career when I asked him, "Hey, Ed, I don't get it." I go, why? What's this black and white thing? And he goes, "Well, did you ever hear of the Civil War?" And I go, "No." So I mean, when I walked into training camp in Minnesota, my roommate was black, and I was white. I didn't go, "Oh boy." I mean, it was nothing to me. It was, hey, most of my friends before I got there were black.
Yeah.
And
Well, some of your best friends were heroes of mine, like Kim Jones, who you played with at Colorado State University. Kim played for the Saints and the Colts, and Kim and
we
I
trained together.
used
You
to
might
train
have,
together
you
all
might
the
have,
time.
you might have
probably
trained
met
with Kim a couple times.
Yeah.
Well, they called him the night train up there.
Yeah,
He's about
exactly.
6'5", 250 mark or something like that.
Yeah,
He ran
he's
like a
big
deer.
as me, and he was actually faster than I was. But I'm just, we trained together, and it never came to mind, like I never heard so much racism stuff as I have today.
Today, yeah, that's the point.
It's like
I
nuts.
totally agree with you.
As, to me, when they're calling whatever they call this thematic, whatever, racism, whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't even know what that is. But when they're pointing the finger at, you, they got three fingers back at them.
Yeah.
And they're the racist. You're not, because I don't even know what they're talking about half the time. And whenever I came into a huddle, man, all I knew is this. We're all we're one unit. I mean, I'm not looking to go, boy.
Well, I promise you this, you and me, we walk out there in this world as older white men. They don't see guys who played on football teams who were brothers in race with the other players. They see a couple white old racists.
Yeah, of course.
And you want to know somebody? I'm not looking for pity there, and I'm not looking for anybody to even have empathy with it. It's just the fact that that's the way it is. Because that's what they're going to look at you, and they might see your Super Bowl ring, and they might start to inch away from the first impression they have about you. But they don't know your history. And the problem is that it makes it hard for society to come together through your own thoughts of racism and who you're judging as a racist every time you walk down the street. You've got that division, okay, with racism. Now, in the police departments, okay, so a lot of these events have had to people who are bad guys. A lot of these people have gotten shot, People get shot every day of every color for being bad guys.
Well,
we don't have to replay what you said
You
last
can
week.
go,
Mark.
no, and I'm
People
not
can
going
back
to,
to
yeah,
it,
because they can go back and listen to what I talked about with my father. But Chicago, every weekend, every week, 65 people shot, 5 or 10 dead, and 2 of them were probably little kids. I mean, that's
Yes.
a fact.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, in a lot of these cities, that's happening every day. So why didn't the Chicago White Sox and all the Chicago teams stop playing?
Well, because they wouldn't be able to practice for a minute.
That's correct. They couldn't, right?
They couldn't practice for a minute.
They couldn't.
And the things that Mark mentioned about when he played, I'm going to tell you right now, every player on that team loved Mark, because Mark was a jokester. He was a fun guy. He had nicknames for every. There was a guy named Roller. He called him Roller Balls. And then he ended up calling him Professor Balls, which was the costume guy from the Pink Panther. He had Marshall. He called him the Sheriff. Jim Marshall was
Right.
the Sheriff.
Right.
He had Studwell. He called him Lonigan, Studs Lonigan. He had nicknames for every. I'm not sure Tommy Hannon appreciated being called Thumbsucker, but that was his nickname, and it stuck.
Yeah.
And Mark was always, and these guys loved Mark, okay? Like, my teammates never did. I mean, I'd look at him and say, these guys love my brother, And they would see me and go, I wonder if he's like his brother. And then they'd go, after about a day, they'd go, oh, hell no, he's nothing like his brother. All right? So I'm going to go to the next topic. So this is, it's interesting because I think, and it sounds like you guys would agree, that they're kind of, what do they call it?
Fanning the flames.
Fanning the flames.
Yeah.
They're fanning the flames.
Yeah.
Every time they do this, I mean, you know what? If you give people a chance, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But you know what's going to get rid of racism, and this is going to transition to Mark here a little bit. You know that if you're a racist, you don't have a good relationship with God. You just don't. And you know what? God is gone from our schools. God is gone from our society. And these guys that believe in God, that are in the NFL, NBA, or anybody else, they never turn it over to God. They turn it over to a riot, a protest. I'm not playing. I'm not doing this. But nobody ever says, if we all turn our wills and our lives over to God, as we understand Him, we're not going to be racist. And that's why I know I'm not a racist. Because I have a relationship with God, and I learned that from Him. Okay? He's been my spiritual mentor for 25 years, minimally. And it's going to go away. Racism will go away. The way they're handling it is ass backwards. They think they can get rid of evil in this world. They think they can take evil out of human beings through riots and everything else. That's playing God, don't you think so, Mark?
Well, yes, it's a complicated thing, but it's so simple you can't comprehend it. Does that make sense? I mean, when you really come to know Jesus Christ as the truth, the way, and the life, and he's the only guy that ever said it, and he's the only guy that I know that rose from the dead on his own and did it and said it before he had it, and he had 500 witnesses to testify it, and 4 guys that wrote books about it. So, it's a hard thing, but when you look at another person as God's creation and created in His image and likeness, how do you not respect that? Or I mean, that something as beautiful as that, and as beautiful as life, and then have somebody look at another human being a different way other than with compassion and love. And, a lot of people say, we're all God's children. And I said, no, we're not. We're all God's creation.
Right.
You become His child when you know who His son is. And to me, that's the most important thing that ever happened to me in my life. And that was given to me through my roommate, Robert Miller, who was with the Vikings, who was a black man. Yeah, and he was a 5th-round draft choice, and Vikings notoriously they cut the 1st-round draft choice, and no one ever felt comfortable, just like you said, Kobe. I mean, you were in fear of your job. I was just in fear of making the team, not in finding a job,
Right.
And I'm looking at my roommate saying, don't get to know him too good because it's going to be really hard when you see him leave.
Yes, it was.
And
you had to watch me leave twice.
yeah, man, that was the hardest thing. The hardest thing was just watching him go through what I knew he was going to have to, and that's really tough. And then when they leave, but Robert was a interesting man. He lost both of his parents. He was a 5th-round draft choice, not supposed to make the team, out of Kansas, and he had a son, and he had, I think, 8 or 9 different siblings, of which he was taking care of. So he's a married man. I'm a single guy coming out of college, and here's a guy that's reading his Bible day and night. He's on his knees praying first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And to me, I didn't get any of that, And but we were really close, and he would lay little notes and say little things to me, and
Right.
and all I knew is after watching all the other guys playing how they're living their life and destroying their lives and having all the ability in the world. They have more ability than me, but they would use drugs or have sex and just work their way. I mean, just out of the league.
Out of the job,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, so
Play their way out
but-
of the job.
but
I
the
know
end- but-
Robert
yeah.
still to this day. I saw Robert up at at a Greeley West game when we were scouting a team when I was coaching at Lutheran High School. I ran into Robert. His son was coaching at Greeley West High School because they moved out to Colorado. And Robert is one of the kindest, most loving men you'll ever meet in your life, and he always has been from the first day I met him when I was in college, and all the way up till when I saw him up in Greeley. He hasn't changed a bit because he knows that. I mean, he's been conditioned to love his brother, and to take care of his own soul first, and he's got a holistic soul that's pure, much unlike Coop, I might say.
No, but
He's just a great guy. But look, this is what happens when you put God into the situation. You put, and I don't, when you just decide that you're a superstar, and what I say matters, and when I leave, and LeBron James crowned himself king of the world, I mean, you ain't my king, LeBron. Okay, I don't care how great an athlete, basketball player you are. You ain't my king. Okay, I've got a king in my life, And what you're saying is wrong, okay? You don't become violent against something that you consider violence, because there's only one force in this universe that can handle it. Is that not true?
Well,
Yeah, the again, I think, like you said, the fanning of the flames is ridiculous, right? And it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch the way the media portrays it as well, and the one-sidedness you see on some of this. And peaceful protesters, really? I don't think so. Not when they're blacked out.
That's just a political.
Right, exactly. It just to me is.
They know it's not. They know it's not peaceful. They're just lying.
Right.
Hoping somebody won't read the newspaper or watch a single show. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this won't be solved quickly, and I think what illiteracy is also brings a lot of that on. Not really understanding people, right? Understanding God, understanding the Ten Commandments, understanding.
I think if you understand God, you don't end up with like this Blake guy. God bless his soul. He got shot 7 times. I prayed for him. The guy had charges for sexual assault. And this was an attempted rape that he has. That these cops were familiar with this guy.
Yeah.
He was a violent guy, and so they were afraid of him. He went and got. You look at a guy like that. Do you think that guy spends a lot of time at church?
No.
Do you think that guy spends a lot of time with his soul? Or does that guy listen to football players and guys who take knees and guys who stop playing because the black man is... Are you not fueling that guy to have more confidence in front of a cop by saying you have the right to protest even though you might be one sick bastard?
Well, what happened to respect for authority to start out with? Respect for authority.
So
I don't get it.
I don't understand, because in our day, black, white, or anything, back when we played, don't you think the guys used to stand up and say, listen, respect authority?
Yeah.
Because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble up to and including death if you don't. We have an entire society right now, an entire party, right, that is completely against anything that has to do with respecting authority. Would you agree with that?
oh, absolutely, and that's everything, and it's who you bow down to. I mean, what you believe in, and to me, the only thing that can bring you together is love. That's it.
That's right.
And that's what God is. God is love, and God is a spirit of love, and power and a sound mind. That's what He gave all of us. He didn't give us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. And the number one, there's numeric value in the Hebrew lettering with a pictorial, and it's the numbers really don't lie. But in the Hebrew, the number 1 means unity. Number 2 is separation, and so it's a different concept. But if I'm one with Christ, we're one. See, because He's in me, I'm in Him, and He even correlates it to marriage, how the two become one, and no man can tear that apart once you become one with that woman and one man. And so, if you look at a huddle, it's a unity of one. A team is one. And the guy that's done it the best is Belichick. You don't have to like
Absolutely.
him. But I mean, look at how many times he's been to the Super Bowl. He knows how to bring everybody together as one. Okay, but bigotry, I had a gentleman, trying to turn this back on here. I read this. It says bigots, okay, and that's what they become, because they're really lying to them. It's not true what they're saying.
That's right.
And so a bigot, regardless of color, have a common trait, and it's called ignorance, just like you said, Coop. It's ignorance. And it fuels their ego. Information is their enemy. They avoid it at all costs. Negative antidotes frame their worldview. bigotry has subdued and detained them. And they don't know how to tell the truth or find the truth. And they fuel on that ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And it blows me away.
That's really well
Yeah.
stated.
Because I really don't understand in my common sense brain how they go there and do that stuff. I mean, just like respect authority. Just like your son. When a police officer pulls me over, I get a little adrenaline rush. I get a little fear, man. I don't know why he's pulling me over. Oh, by the way, last time I got pulled over.
I know why he's pulling me over.
Probably
So
speeding.
do I
but,
when he pulls me over.
Yeah.
It's 'cause
But
I'm
this
speeding.
time he pulls me over and he said, "Did you know your front headlight was out?" So he pulled me over for a safety reason.
Yeah.
And he said, "Get your light changed." And I said, "Oh, geez, thanks, officer." The time before that, I got pulled over for speeding. And I remember when he asked me a few questions. I kind of reached to the back seat. He goes, "Don't do that." So, sorry, officer. Just keep your hands on the steering wheel. I don't think they treat anyone different. I don't think that.
I don't know. I'm
that
not
is
black
different.
or anything, but I got pulled over by a cop, and he said, "Your front headlight's out." And he dragged me out. He said, showed me my front headlight. I said, "It's not out. It's on." And then he took my head and bashed it in the front headlight. So now it's out.
But
Okay.
Hey, so we're gonna have to wrap the show up. I'm sorry, Andy, I may cut that one.
Yeah, I'll cut that.
No, I'm not gonna cut it. All right. So listen, Coop and I are both realtors here. We're at Coldwell Banker's offices in the Denver Tech Center. Coop office is out of here. This is like a sister office for mine. I'm out of the Coldwell Banker Denver West. And if we won't take a whole lot of time here, but if you need something in real estate, Coop's been doing it for 38 years. Coop,
28.
48,
28?
58.
Yeah, something like that.
28 years in the Denver market. Coop, give me your email address and your phone number.
Yeah,
real
it's
quick.
303-843-1545. And the email
Do it
is
again.
afccoop63@gmail.com. But I tell everybody, the easiest way to find me is just Google my name, Mark Cooper Realtor, or Mark Cooper Real Estate. I'm all over the web. You cannot not find me. Let's put it that way. So, when you've been around this long, I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm licensed in Florida. I'm licensed in Colorado. I do a couple deals down there for Buddy's Investment Properties and some homes. But the 99.9% of my business is done right here. I'll sell 50 houses a year, plus or minus, every year, and I've been doing that for a long time. So it's been a great market. Interest rates are as low as they've ever been. Inventory's thin, so things are really, we're in a great market. But we're a great economy, and it's a good state. So as long as those things keep a diverse state, as long as those things stay in place, our real estate market should do really well.
So my email address, now that everybody's lost interest in me, thanks for that, Coop. I'll sell 50 houses maybe before I die. Probably not. Anyway, it's Coach Mulls at gmail.com. Mulls. First 4 letters of my name, Mull with an S on the end. Coach Mulls. I have to explain that. Yeah, it's right there. Go ahead.
Oops.
It's right there. Coach Mulls at gmail.com. Phone number 720-722-1559. Love to hear from you. If you want to talk about the show, talk about anything we've said, you've got the phone numbers, you've got the email addresses, and you can and we can reach it. Mark, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Yeah, I'd have loved to dove into a lot more. We have to do this more often because
it'd be
you're
fun.
just a wealth of knowledge, and it'd be fun to hear. Kind of like you're prior to my entry in the league, and a lot of things changed then. And talking to you is like talking to Gary.